You're listening to Alcoholics Alive, where recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous share their experience on how they live AA as a way of life. None of our participants get paid or speak for AA. Here are your hosts, Shank and Wayne. Shank.
Wayne.
I heard some good shrapnel.
Okay.
Just the other day, and now I have forgotten it.
Was this the one that...
It was, yeah. Share about what you want to hear about. You ever heard that one?
I was trying to think of that. I meant to ask you this morning. Share about what you want to hear about.
Share about what you want to hear about. Or maybe it was share about what you need to hear about.
Either way.
It is cracking me up when somebody said that to me last week. But, hey, I'll roll with it.
Not a bad suggestion, I suppose.
It's not a bad suggestion. Not a bad suggestion. What is our Upon Awakening reading today?
All right. Season 10, Episode 10, our Upon Awakening reading comes from the book Alcoholics Anonymous at page 28. That's the 4th edition, 2001. And it says, "What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God." Capital G, God.
Capital G. Now, this would be a good one to see how they translated it in the PLBB, but Lord, don't let me get too diverted here.
Didn't we look at that?
We did. I can't remember. It's such an accurate statement, though, for me, and I would think for anybody that has recovered in Alcoholics Anonymous, because, I mean, when we get here, we're very broken, weak, scared, confused, baffled, whatever the word may be for each person. And a lot of times when you first come to Alcoholics Anonymous or hear about it, it doesn't seem like a solution. I mean, what do you mean you're going to take steps and go to a meeting and help other people and try to live a spiritual way of life? How can that be a solution? And it ultimately turns out to be a solution, and more than that. So we find out that the power of God here in Alcoholics Anonymous that we find through the steps can solve all of our problems. Were you able to find it in the PLBB?
Well, you know what would make it easier is if the page numbers matched
Well,
up.
yeah, of course, yeah, but now you're a PLBB technician.
Well, I am
I thought
pretty
that
familiar with it.
I thought that would come up pretty quickly.
Let's see. Well, what you have to do is go to the page, see what's around it, see how they quote translated it, blah blah blah.
Right. Maybe we should come up with what would it be called? A concordance from
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what we need. We could probably get chat to do that for us.
We probably could. I may try that after the session here. Have you been able to find it?
No.
All right. Well,
That could be because it was the wrong page number to begin with.
it could be. Well, I'm excited about why you're looking for that. I'm going to talk a little bit here. I'm excited about our episode today. So we've attended our area assembly, and we've gotten our delegates report. We've gotten actually a couple of documents that were sent out by the General Service Office that have the conference advisory actions from the 75th Fifth General Service Conference. It's got the floor actions. It's got committee considerations. And today we're going to kind of do a recap of the actual advisory actions. So these are items that made it through the conference committees to the conference floor, were debated, discussed, and became advisory actions. So we're going to kind of review the good, the bad, and the what I would call unfinished, because there are things that weren't approved as well. So we're going to talk about those today. Shank, have you been able to find that translation? Listen, don't make me pull my PLBB out.
Well, they took out the part where it talks about the psychologist William James in his book.
Oh, really? Well, there you have it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I knew I shouldn't have brought it up.
You should
Sent us down a rabbit hole here. What seemed at first a flimsy reed has proved to be the loving and powerful hand of God.
I think it's page 42 in the plain language book. I just can't find where it is.
Okay.
It could be. I don't know. They've just, all of this is rewritten so much that I just don't know.
Oh, they have completely pulled that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. How about that? Well,
Something that I hadn't realized before, but they took that part out, referencing William James's book, A Variety of Religious Experiences, if that's what it's called.
mm-hmm.
And it must be because if you're reading the plain language book, you don't have the ability to read that book by William James because it is quite crazy. I have read it.
Yeah. It's not an easy read. All right, well. More to come.
More to come.
we got seriously sidetracked there. All right. Shank, what's our, well, I kind of said the topic. Where are we starting at?
All right, so we have our General Service Conference 75 recap. The General Service 75 theme was working together, increasing trust. And it would seem that didn't work out too well.
Yeah. Yeah, when you read the advisory actions and some of the notes that came out, and then the floor actions, and then a lot of the stuff, the committee considerations that didn't make it.
Well, I'm not even talking about that really. Weren't there a couple of people that just kind of pieced out?
There were. Yes, there were a couple of trustees that left the conference early. Now,
So
depending on who you talk to, you'll hear different stories about
that
it.
they
So,
rotated early. So what I heard at our assembly is that they decided to rotate out early.
yeah, well, you'll hear that. I don't know. I mean, I heard that they were obviously, didn't get their way and left, or they didn't like the way things were going, they left. I heard that they didn't like the way people were talking to them, which probably is accurate, and they left. And then there were a couple people that would always table that with, well, they were rotating out anyway, so they just rotated out early.
Which is not
I don't know.
technically,
It's not
it's
completely honest.
it's not completely honest. It's not completely not honest. But they
Yeah.
didn't, it did not sound to me, correct me if you were there and I'm wrong. It did not sound to me like they were like, you know what, I think I'm going to rotate early and just go ahead and leave the conference right now.
Yep. I don't think that's how it happened.
Okay. So anyway, working together, increasing trust. What I would like to talk about is kind of the good, the bad, the unfinished, the ugly.
Yeah.
Just an overview kind of what happened and some of our opinions on that, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we've had kind of a common theme throughout this season of just certain items that we've kind of been discussing. So we probably can't go through every advisory action that was approved, but we can talk through some of the ones that I guess that were concerning to us or that we've been kind of focusing in on.
Well, I think too, I don't know, for me, it kind of helps me from my own perspective and my own truth. If the General Service Board is connected or disconnected to the fellowship as a whole, and I know that we just have our delegates and they take time and energy and all of that kind of stuff to go out there, but
Yeah. I'll tell you, after doing this season, we won't go into it today, but I'm even more convinced that as good as our structure seems to be, and you hear everybody talking about how great the upside down triangle is, I'm not so sure that the committee structure the way it is today and 1 week conference a year is really all that effective now. I think they need to maybe look at doing something different or simplify everything. And I don't know, maybe limit the number of PAIs that come out or, shorten the conference or, the amount of material they go through is just crazy, but
it's wild.
something needs to be looked at.
Okay, so
What were a few?
there are a few things, and we can go to detail in any of these if you want. Some financial reporting, plain language, professional outreach, some feedback from the fellowship, things that I would consider, in the pro category, if you will. The General Service Board will now include the capital project and maintenance cost details in their quarterly reports.
Okay.
So what is the capital project and maintenance costs? What does that even mean?
Well, so typically capital projects and a capital budget is kind of separate from the operating budget. So previously, when they sent out their quarterly reports to the fellowship, it didn't include their capital budgets or capital project and maintenance cost details. So this is basically saying that they're going to start including that in their quarterly reports.
Why did this even come up?
Well, because I think it's a culmination of over the last 5, 6, 7 years of kind of not having complete transparency into the financials. Obviously, we've been operating at a deficit for a number of years, and we keep our head in the sand about that a little bit. We're not trying to cut expense enough, and now there's a capital project to renovate the office space at the office. That's a little over $2 million project. So there were some delegates and some staff or delegates that were trying to slow that down or stop it. And that failed. So I think this was their kind of compromise was you need to start reporting on it.
So it failed to stop it, which means they're continuing on with that project, but they're going to be more, they're going to give us quarterly reports.
That's right. Yeah.
About
basically.
Well,
it's not a go
quite
ahead.
frankly, having been to GSO, I'm surprised that it's even that is a lot of money. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm surprised it's not much more than that. Just for the area where GSO is located, the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it says here reevaluate the viability and timing of 11th floor construction project with an estimated cost of up to $2 million. So, yeah, I don't know. It probably needs to be renovated.
Yeah.
I don't know. You would know better than me, being there a few times, but I've never worked there, so I don't know. Nonetheless, they should report on it and give us some reporting on where it stands. And I think one of the issues that people had was how can you spend $2 million on renovating your office when our reserve fund is at 6 months? So there was some concern that, hey, let's get the reserve fund up to 9 months before we spend money on renovating offices. So anyway,
But this wouldn't even really be a topic of conversation if we were not in such a financial bind, right? I just kind of,
I
it
agree.
sounds like because people are finally privy to all the things going
Yes,
on,
that's right.
that now they're
That's
like,
right.
oh, great, and you're going to spend $2 million
Yeah.
to renovate. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
If
the
we if
next,
we
oh, go ahead.
if we had our own house in order for years, it probably would have never come up. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, we have a plain language book.
What'd they do with that?
Okay, well, there was a lot of talk of either revising or rescinding the plain language book, a tool for reading Alcoholics Anonymous. Um, but apparently they're going to defer that to 77th conference.
Okay. Yes, it says the proposal to rescind or revise the plain language big book be collected and deferred until the 77th General Service Conference to allow for a wider fellowship experience.
There you go.
And then I think there was another one directly related to this that said the development of a process within the trustees' literature committee for receiving, accessing, and forwarding proposed changes to the plain language big book to the conference committee on literature. So basically, they're going to start collecting suggestions and revisions over the next 2 years, and they got to go to the literature committee. Yeah.
Is that the normal process for any and or all of our literature?
Well, I thought it was.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you remember, there was a letter that our chairman wrote. He was trying to create a little different process for it.
Hmm.
I think we read some of that on a previous episode. I don't remember all the details now.
Yeah.
And this is one that I actually wrote to our delegate and said, "Hey, why would the plain language big book have a different process?
Exactly.
Let it. We've had the same process for a long time, and you guys seem to love it. It led to anyway. So leave it the way it is. Here's something interesting. I don't think I'm misspeaking here. If you've been a listener for a long time, you know we've done a lot of stuff in the plain language big book. No secret what our thoughts are on it. But I think we were both in favor of leaving it alone for a few years,
Yeah.
weren't we? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's out. People are getting used to it, or they're checking it out, and let's see what happens to it over the next couple of years before we start changing it.
Hmm.
So anyway, no changes to PLBB at least till the 77th conference.
There you go. That'll be what, 2027?
Yeah. And then it'll take another several years to get a change in it. So maybe they'll decide
It didn't take that long to get it approved
No, it
and
didn't.
written and published and have a second freaking
But remember,
printing.
Shank, everything moves slow in AA.
That's such
It's
a
actually
fact.
not been true the last 5 years, has it?
Okay, so our LinkedIn here, LinkedIn Premium business account, um, on a 1-year trial basis, AAWS subscribed to a LinkedIn Premium business account at a cost not to exceed $1,000 per year and to bring back a report on the effectiveness of the upgraded account to the 2026 Conference Committee on Cooperation with the Professional Community.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So that's just the new approach to reach the mental health professionals, which, fine.
Well, they wanted the premium. We're already on LinkedIn,
Correct.
so they wanted the
We, as
premium
in Alcoholics
AA.
Anonymous.
Yes. Alcoholics Anonymous is already on LinkedIn. They wanted the premium account so they could get better analytics into who's looking at the pages and who's liking stuff and whatnot. And This actually originally got shot down in the conference because of the cost. How can you spend? We're in the hole, and how can you spend $1,000 on it?
Right.
And then it got reconsidered. I guess the minority spoke, and it got reconsidered, and it ultimately got it passed with 2/3 substantial unanimity. But I got thoughts on it personally, but I don't know how it helps really carry the message. And again, personally, I think this is a decision that whoever the staff member is that's in charge of LinkedIn, they should have just signed up for it. I mean, let staff make some decisions.
Well, back to the financial situation. If we were in good financial health, it would probably be fine. But $1,000 is a lot of money for a premium LinkedIn subscription.
It's a good point.
To what? See who's
For
looking
nothing.
at it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's ultimately what.
So if it helps one person posting on all that LinkedIn, then we should be willing to do that and not have a premium subscription and just do it as a service piece.
You sold me back, Shank. Cancel the premium.
I mean, like, who cares? I'm obviously
with
not
you.
someone that has worked. I've never really worked. I don't have LinkedIn, is what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I don't want it. But
Well, I understand. So this is it's more of a professional and cooperation with the professional community
yeah, but most of
play.
the freaking mental health professionals are trying to reach are alcoholics or are in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Agree. Yeah. 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 I think the idea that we're going to reach a lot of people on LinkedIn or that we're going to sway a lot of professionals to refer them to AA is probably not true. So I don't know. There's probably benefit to being on LinkedIn. There's probably no benefit to paying for the premium subscription. Yeah.
Well, and in my personal opinion, most of that content should be like, what is AA, what it is, and what it is not. Who should you send here?
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
digress.
Well, hey, so on that note, there was another. I think we'll talk about it next week. There was a committee consideration where they wanted the conference to approve certain hashtags for the social media post. It just cracks me up that would make it to one of those committees. I mean, if I'm a staff person and I'm doing the social media post, I'm just going to use hashtags. I'm not going to ask you for
Well,
permission.
listen, are they using inappropriate hashtags? Like,
No, none of
what
them
I mean
were.
is just it's at that level or whatever of service, you should trust your trusted servant that they're not going to put like
Yeah,
hashtag sober is sexy or something,
that's right.
you know?
Yeah, sober AF. Sober is, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Which we use on some of our memes, by the way. So
But we're not AA at
that's
large.
right.
We don't speak for
That's right.
AA.
That's right. What else you
Yes.
got?
Well, we have some feedback survey situation, and I have some questions about this. The Grapevine Board will survey the membership to find out what's working and what isn't with their magazines, books, podcasts, and social media. Actual input from actual members. So,
Oh my God. Go ahead.
who's going to get the survey? How are they going to get the survey? Why do they need to do a survey? I thought the Grapevine was separate from Alcoholics Anonymous. Are they doing the survey because they've been taking money from the general fund? So we've actually been funding them. So they feel some kind of obligation to report feedback. Why are they doing this at the conference if they're a totally separate entity?
Good questions. So legally, they don't have to run anything through the conference. Grapevine is a separate business, separate board, separate entity, and I think they can make all their decisions without actually going through the conference. I think that they'll tell you that in the spirit of democracy and the upside down triangle, that's why you see their stuff show up in conference. And now, since they've taken money from the General Service Fund for many years, I guess now they're kind of it opens the door for them to be scrutinized by the conference. Here's the thing about it for me is, what else do they need to know? They already know that the print subscriptions have declined year over year for a long time. Less than 3% of our membership actually subscribe to the print copy. So the idea that it's helping like millions of people or even hundreds of thousands of people is not true. The app that they have, I think we covered this last week. What, they got like 8,000 or 13,000 subscribers to the app? I mean, no offense, but we've got triple that in Instagram followers. It's just weird. So, they already have enough information to make very good, informed, educated business decisions, and they fail to do it.
Okay, well, also, we have the 5-year plans.
Well, have you ever seen the 5-year plan?
So, well, the 5-year plans for both Grapevine and Lavinia be reviewed annually by the Conference Committee on the AA Grapevine and Lavinia. The background materials for both plans should include at least 5 years of financial history in any relevant historical and or strategic narrative that supports their projections.
Hell, we've already got that info. We could have sent it to them. What?
Well, you have your 5-year plan. You're going to review it annually, and then what? When you're still losing money, when the general fund is still bankrolling the Grapevine, then what?
Yeah.
Then you're going to put some of these responses from the survey into...
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know.
This is all leading to the Grapevine being absorbed by, mark this, May 25th, 2025. The Grapevine being absorbed by GSO.
100%.
As a service piece, as a service. And then it's going to flip, and they're going to be, well, we've been bankrolling them. We've been supporting them financially through the kindness of our hearts, and because this is a service that's so important. And then we're going to be on the hook for all of the Grapevine stuff too.
No doubt. That's where it's headed.
Which may be a better plan, if that is where it's going, is to be honest with the fellowship and just say, hey, if you give $1 to GSO, you're paying for the Grapevine and you don't have access to it.
Yep. No doubt. Hey, there was a place several years ago to combine the boards.
Well,
and that was it never made it. But that's where that's headed. I think you're right about that.
That's probably a better solution than all of this, the 5-year plans every few years.
Would be.
Getting feedback, getting surveys. Like, if you truly believe that it is so important, and you're not willing to not print it in color, do less issues, like...
Yeah, or go completely digital. Yeah. Or just, do away with it.
In our state, every offender, every justice involved, incarcerated person has a tablet.
Yep, so they have access to it.
Well, by the way, currently they only have access to the prison issue.
Oh, that's right. We confirmed that. We confirmed that with Nick, didn't we, at the corrections desk?
But that's
kind of odd. But anyway. and just for the record, they are now called people living in incarceration.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Okay, don't offend anybody. But anyway, this is just a time waster, the Grapevine. They got enough, meaning the survey. They got enough information. But I'm curious to see if we're included in the survey.
Yeah.
All right, more to come on that one.
More to come. So next we have some of these advisory actions that not the best.
Not the best decisions?
From my humble opinion.
From our standpoint? Okay.
We have the Living Sober revisions.
Oh, that got approved, huh?
The draft is coming in 2026.
Nice. Man.
Doesn't that seem fast? Am I crazy?
Well, they got to be AI in that thing.
Well, they've probably been working on it for 5 years already.
Well, that's a good point. So they actually made the decision to redo it, huh? I was trying to find the actual wording on that one.
Well, the trustees' literature committee update the language and content of the book Living Sober with the progress report or draft manuscript to be delivered to the 2026 Conference Committee on Literature.
Okay. So this is interesting. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, I think we knew that it was probably going to get approved, but I was kind of neutral on it to start with.
Yeah.
Then I was like, no, don't rewrite it. Leave it alone. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, started reading some of it, and I'm like, God, it needs to be changed. Yeah. Then we started doing the Living Sober Shrapnel, and I'm like, I love this thing.
I know. It's kind of good. It's kind of good.
It's so goofy, though. I don't know where I'm at on it. You got to...
I don't know. I think some of it could this is one of the things where it's like, you know what, if you're going to update something, okay, here's my opinion. Stop trying to update the first 164 pages in the big book and change things to fit some kind of political, social, religious, non-religious area, okay?
Yep.
Update the stories in the back of the book in the 5th edition.
Yep. Which was the original intent.
Update Living Sober.
Yep.
To better reflect what people do, because Living Sober is a booklet that I was just looking this morning at the prison in the front of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is what it says. Let's see, booklets. Living Sober, practical suggestions heard at meetings.
That's about that's what that is.
That's what that is. So update that. Okay, and talk about in that, about if you're having trouble, identifying or not identifying, or if you have religious trauma, sexual trauma, make a brief mention of it.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
But to update all of it doesn't make sense. Either update the big book and leave everything else alone. I don't know.
So if you play that through, I think we had suggested this a few years ago. So if they would have not done the PLBB, update the stories in the back of the big book, which was the original intent to help somebody identify. So they could have put new stories in the 5th edition, and then they could have either redone Living Sober to kind of complement the big book with suggestions, or they could have just wrote a new little book instead of doing this PLBB thing that really creates confusion between the two books. But anyway, I'll be curious to see the
But you know what else? If you want to recover from alcoholism, you can read a story in the back of the book Alcoholics Anonymous about a teenage girl getting sober in a men's prison, and they're all like, I relate. Like the alcoholics that are incarcerated, whether male, female, doesn't matter what any of their other stuff, we're all alcoholics and find ways that we can relate. So
we just had that experience today.
Top of mind. Okay, next.
What else we got? So be on the lookout for the Living Sober revision.
Yep, submit your revisions to the
to the committee, literature committee.
Write a PAI about what you want your specific. Okay, we have a higher bequest. The individual bequest was raised the cap from 10,000 to 12,500.
God, they're just going to keep doing that every year until it gets up to some high number. Yeah, why don't we just have a fundraiser? Right, we should.
Just invite all of the, wealthy alcoholics, recovered or not.
Yeah, tell them, hey, we need $6 million for the reserve fund. Please donate. You're going to see the cap get raised also for individual contributions of people living. Watch. So again, it's like a Band-Aid for instead of looking at expense and making some tough decisions. What else we got?
More pamphlet updates.
Oh yeah, man. The pamphlet revision machine just keeps on humming, doesn't
It
it?
is a machine.
Yeah,
Sponsorship, Native North American, now Indigenous people in AA,
yeah.
concepts,
12.
steps.
So they're redoing 12 Steps Illustrated and the 12 Concepts Illustrated, huh?
Hmm.
And so they're going to revise the Native American one to what's it going to be called?
Indigenous people in AA.
I'm not laughing at that. I mean, I know a lot of Native Americans in AA, and none of them have ever complained about the title of that pamphlet. I, I mean,
Well, they've probably
maybe
never read it because you didn't give it to them
no, they didn't read it. No, they
because it's unnecessary.
right. Well, we just keep spinning wheels with literature with pamphlet stuff. I mean, it's really what it is.
Yeah. All right. Here's
Yeah.
some things that were rejected.
What do you got?
Um, a motion to pause GSO construction until the reserve fund is replenished.
Oh yeah,
Rejected.
yeah. I got to hit myself on that one. So that was rejected.
Yeah. No
Now,
big surprise, I suppose.
I guess being fiscally responsible, it should have been a consideration,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you justify spending money on office space or redoing office space or a new cubicle when the reserve fund's down? But there could be some underlying issues there that we're not aware of. But
Well, and quite frankly, I'm sure that they already have all of that in the works. Like, you don't just say, I want to
that's right.
outfit the office and then it happens tomorrow. So
That's
I could
right.
see where that's probably really frustrating that you've been working on a plan and all of that, and for all of it to just get scrapped and have to go to whoever you're going to contract with and say, never mind, but
Yeah.
we have to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Probably the most, I don't know, from my experience at our assembly, please email us what your experiences at your assemblies were. But the board censure situation
Mm-hmm.
was very emotional.
Very emotional. But
And a motion to censure the General Service Board for poor communication, trustee resignations, and even allegations of bullying declined.
yep.
Okay,
So
so remind
the
me, a censure.
the
Let me just be sure. What is a censure?
it's just more of like a black mark. It's like a reprimand. It's like, hey, we've got no faith and trust in you.
Okay,
So here,
but it doesn't mean that you're fired,
no,
right?
you're not fired. No.
Okay.
Now, some people will resign after they've been censured, but no, it's not. You're not fired. There's no legal or financial repercussions to you at all. It's more like ethical and spiritual. Yeah. So the actual floor action. So this was a floor action that came up,
Mm.
right? It says the 75th General Service Conference issue a censure expressing formal disapproval for past behavior of the General Service Board for the following reasons: contributing to an environment that led to the resignation of experienced and trusted board members, ineffective, inconsistent, and non-transparent communication to the conference, unacceptable behavior by trustees, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and undermining the spiritual handshake with the conference as described in Concept 6 by not following a conference advisory action. It's pretty serious. And so it basically, it didn't make it on the conference floor. I think there were, as a matter of fact,
I just think it's quite interesting Now, this sounds like it's a pretty big deal, okay?
Hmm.
It sounds like it's just this formal statement of like, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And in fact, you have gone outside the bounds of what you're directed to do. So I'm not trying to undermine that a censure is very serious, but it just makes it seem like, okay, well, they can do whatever they want. It doesn't, the upside down triangle certainly doesn't matter. Um, and I guess like what I gathered from our assembly is that people are worried that then no one will want to take these board positions or want to be on it.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
well, then we lessen the pool.
That's right. Yeah. The thing about this one is, I mean, you'll hear different opinions on it, but I mean, it did. The people that were like behind it didn't just make it up. I mean, there's a reason for it, and I've heard people say, well, they should have just emailed or we should have just had a verbal conversation about it. They tried all that. No one listened. And so when this one was brought up, they immediately go to what they call decline to consider. So they're going to vote on whether they should consider it or not. Well, the vote to consider it actually passed, 65 to 50 vote. So then they had discussion about it, and they had debate, and that's probably when one person left, and it ultimately got voted on, and only 6 people voted for it. So there were
So I wonder
108.
if the person who left was upset at the threat of a censure, or not a threat of the possibility.
It was one of the people that was accused of the harassment. Yeah, yeah, that's who it was. It was a trustee that I guess that was accused of the harassment.
I just, I don't understand what we do moving forward then if we don't have the ability. I know we have but if people are just going to say, well, no one's gonna want these positions, and then what do we do if we just censure the board every time we don't like what they do? And it doesn't sound like it was a one-time event. It doesn't sound
No,
like this just like, oh, something happened and we're mad about it and we want to slap you on the wrist. That's not what it sounded like to me.
no, there was way more to it than that. Yeah.
Well, declined.
Yep, it's gone. So it didn't pass. That they probably should have.
Okay, so another proposal to let delegates elect their own chair was declined without debate.
Yeah, there's an election procedure for the delegate chair. I think it has something to do with the trustees committee, probably for the conference, and I think they wanted to change the process to where each conference committee could elect a chairperson, and then they would do a three legacy vote, or they could elect a nominee. So the delegates are electing the nominees, and then there's a third legacy vote to see who gets selected. It got shot down. So,
QR codes on literature?
yeah,
Nope.
that got shot down.
Simplifying the committee agenda?
Shot
Mm-mm.
down.
Repealing the current code of conduct in favor of traditions and concepts?
Shot down. Yeah. So you can see a theme there, right? It seems like there is some people that are trying to like simplify things. They're trying to be more effective. They are truly trying to make it more of a upside down triangle where the delegates and kind of the AA members are more involved. But some of this stuff just gets, simplifying the agenda gets shot down. The delegates actually selecting their own chairperson gets shot down. Trying to get rid of the code of conduct and have everybody just follow the current traditions and concepts shot down. So anyway,
There are
and
some of those things, you know.
yeah, there are good reasons for a lot of that stuff, but
Well, and two, I would like to point out if you've ever been to, an assembly or an AA service event in any capacity, there is some point where you're just over it. Either things are being talked about that like you don't care about or that you do really care about. So I could see on some of this stuff like why it's just like, oh, QR codes? No, who cares? I don't even want to talk about that. Like I do understand,
yeah,
but like with the QR codes, print them on the books. Why are
yeah.
we,
I mean,
why are we even talking about that?
it's another one where like, why didn't the staff or the literature trustees committee just make a decision? I mean, if you want to put a QR code on on a pamphlet that directs people to the meeting guide app or our website or the digital version of that pamphlet, what's the harm in that?
Yeah,
Why would that need to go to the conference?
yeah.
Come on, staff, just make some decisions and ask for forgiveness later.
Okay, so we have a few, um, just a couple of things that are just kicked down the road a little bit.
What you got?
Adding the concepts to the 12 by 12.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot believe that that wasn't just approved.
Me either. It did
Um,
get this. It did make the simple majority though, so you'll see it come back.
yeah. So then it'll be the 12 by 12 by 12.
Yeah. So currently, your 12 by 12 is safe from the concepts.
We'll have to get our friend of the pod, Bob, to sign a 12 by 12 by 12 when they do that.
That's right. That's right.
Um, Workbooks, service pamphlets, reorganizing the overloaded conference committee system.
Hmm.
You know,
All that stuff got declined.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about one more thing that came up,
Uh-oh.
and then
What is
we'll
it?
we'll move on and cover the rest next week. But there was a floor action, wasn't there, to redo the preamble again?
That is
Right?
correct.
Yeah. Um,
So the General Service Board revisit the advisory actions of the 71st General Service Conference regarding the AA preamble and improve the following as the only conference-approved AA preamble. Okay, so
okay.
I'm going to read it.
What was it, or what is it?
In Alcoholics Anonymous, we share our experience, strength, and hope with each other that we may solve our common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism.
I like it. It takes men out, takes women out, and it takes people out. I sponsored a guy one time who thought he identified as a jaguar. I am not making this up. He thinks he's a jaguar. And when we put people in
Maybe
there,
he
he did.
is.
Well, he may be. So
Okay.
when they changed it to people, it excluded him. He didn't think he could recover because he's not a people. He's a jaguar. I'm telling
Did he
you.
drink again?
I don't know. He kind of disappeared on me, but uh, I like this one because it's completely neutral. Actually, I like men and women, but
Well, what's interesting is, okay, was it our delegate at the time
yes, yes.
voted in favor of this?
This one actually got more votes than the other one. It was a kind of a tricky order of how things happened at the conference that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but ultimately this one didn't get approved, and the current version that says people did. So I just think it's interesting it's coming back up. So it's obviously on people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that This is what started a lot of the stuff that's happened in the last 6 years.
Yes. I think
Yeah,
that most people would be willing, no matter what your feelings on it are, would be willing to say that this is where it
this is
started.
when it all started. Yep.
Okay, which, by the way, who prints the AA preamble? Who owns it? Is it in the big book?
It's the grapevine.
It's the freaking
It,
grapevine.
yes.
So if they
And if
wanted to change it, why didn't they just change it? Why did they bring it to the conference to have all of this discussion, unrest, division,
they didn't have to bring it,
then to
they
do whatever
did.
they wanted anyway? Because
Yeah.
even if we said we want to not change it, they could have changed it anyway, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. 100%. They did it out of what they would call courtesy to the fellowship,
Which, like, I do
but it
understand to
started
a
a crap
certain
storm.
degree, but like,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I remember when they were debating all this stuff. I mean, there were people in our area that literally said this is going to help millions of people recover. It's going to open the door to just hundreds and
Okay,
thousands of
well, that
people.
didn't happen. And so now we've
No.
pivoted to more pamphlets, more revisions, more updates.
Yeah. Open the
So,
door for
like,
lots of stuff. Yeah.
but also, it's not just that it opened the door. If this was supposed to help millions more people, it did not do that, clearly.
No, it didn't. Not even close. So,
Anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
uh-huh. So you're stuck with the AAs of Alcoholics Anonymous, the Fellowship of People. So there you have it.
There you have it.
Shank, let's move on to Living Sober Shrapnel.
Living Sober Shrapnel, our segment of lore, myth, and things is written in the booklet, Living Sober. So our first Living Sober Shrapnel is from page 31 of the 55th printing of the booklet Living Sober, and it is a program of dream interpretation.
That's awesome.
So here's what it says. AA is not a program of dream interpretation, so we cannot point out the hidden meanings, if any, that such dreams have, as psychoanalysts and other dream interpreters do. We can report only that such dreams may occur, so don't be too surprised. Among the most common is a dream that one finds himself drunk and horrified about it but has no memory at all of taking a drink. We may even awaken with chills, shakes, and other classic hangover jitters when, of course, we haven't touched a drop in months. It was all just a bad dream, and it may come out of the blue long, long after our last drink.
Drunk dreams.
A program of dream interpretation.
AA is not a program of dream interpretation.
That's right. So your sponsor shouldn't be telling you that's because you're not living right.
That's right.
You're not doing your morning prayers and gratitude list.
Yep, you're not praying right. This is interesting. I remember reading this a long time ago when I was doing it.
I had no memory whatsoever of this part of Living Sober when I was reading it.
That is crazy. I actually had a dream like this. I was barely sober. It was so vivid, I still wonder if it happened or not. Program of dream interpretation. It's got to go.
It's
I'm
out.
scrapping it.
It's out of here. Our next Living Sober Shrapnel is from page 33, and it says, "Jar us like a thunderbolt."
Oh, nice.
So this says, no wonder then that when we first listen to recovered alcoholics in AA talking freely and honestly about themselves, we are stunned. Their tales of their own drinking escapades, of their own secret fears and loneliness, jar us like a thunderbolt.
Nice. Oh, I love that. Jar us like a thunderbolt. Well, I'll give them credit for using the term recovered alcoholics.
You know what? Throughout the booklet Living Sober, they will use recovering in certain areas, but it's generally if they're speaking about like you're engaging in old behaviors or you're not acting, you're not a recovered alcoholic, clearly.
Right. Well, the truth is we are recovering for a little while.
That's right.
At some point we should recover, and then we're recovered. And I have had this experience where, when you first get here and you hear people tell stories, you're like, I can't believe they're saying that. But you're also identifying, and it's like it does kind of freak you out and makes you feel hopeful all at the same time.
Totally agree.
It kind of jars you like a thunderbolt, Shane.
I really like this one, actually.
Oh. You ever had that experience though, where somebody shares something really intimate with you and you're like, whoa.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just remember like being in a group, and like I think that there's a group of us that are like this, that go out to dinner before the meeting or hang out or whatever, but it's like you just talk about these things that, I mean, sometimes I work in a client-based business, and every now and then I'll almost like start to tell a story or say something, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like they're not going to get it. They're going to think I'm psychotic for thinking that's funny.
Listen, I'm keeping this one.
It's in. We're keeping it.
Yeah, we need to start using
like
it.
a thunderbolt.
That guy made that 12-step call on me in the detox. He jarred me like a thunderbolt.
Oh. All right. We're keeping that one. So our last Living Sober shrapnel is make it a triple play. Don't let yourself get too tired, too hungry, or too lonely.
Wow! Oh my goodness.
So this is page 36, and here's what it says. For these reasons, then, when we suggest avoiding fatigue and hunger, we often tie it to a mention of one more hazard to make it a triple play. Don't let yourself get too tired, too hungry, or too lonely. Check it out. If the notion of taking a drink crosses your mind anytime soon, pause to consider. As often as not, you are likely to find you're in one or more of those 3 high-risk conditions. Tell somebody fast. That at least starts to relieve the loneliness.
Oh my goodness. This has got to be under HALT, doesn't it? Is that even in the Living Sober book?
It doesn't say HALT, but it does. It references this, and then right before this or around this, it's talking about one of the other.
Don't get too lonely or something, or ridding yourself of loneliness. Or...
No, it's not Easy Does It. It's one of them though. I was just like, I think it is Easy Does It actually.
Yeah, it might be. Mm-hmm. So this is definitely where HALT came from, huh?
Yes. And you know what? A lot of other shrapnel straight from the Living Sober booklet, which makes sense to me since it's supposed
heard at meetings.
Yes.
Yes. That made, when you said that earlier in the episode, that made sense now. That's why the book is the way it is.
That's
it's
right.
Suggestions heard at meetings.
That's right.
So it's basically a book of shrapnel.
Basically.
This is interesting. Make it a triple play. Some of this stuff is right. I mean, you don't want to get too tired.
But you know what I can appreciate since like reading through this book specifically to look for things like this that are just funny or true or that we've heard said a lot is like I can appreciate that it is just stuff that you hear me. It's not the AA program. They direct you back to the book Alcoholics Anonymous. They tell you to have a sponsor. They tell you that there are recovered alcoholics. So I can appreciate that this is just like a booklet of all of the stuff that you hear that probably works for people, probably helps. It is not the AA program. And they reference like, hey, you need to work the steps, get a sponsor, and read the book Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're doing that, and it's explained to a person that way, then the book's fine to read as an aside, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, as long as you're actually taking the steps out of the big book and trying to live A's way of life.
So I think I've turned the corner on it now. I'm halfway through the book, right? Because I think there are like 100 pages. The last several are, I don't know, resources or something.
Now, you know, there's a faction in AA where you have to read the Living Sober book before you do anything else.
What?
And like, oh yeah,
no,
yep. Some of them have defected and they're actually in our group now. But I think that's dumb. I think that's
those
risky
guys
for people.
had to read Living Sober?
Yes.
Is it the ones I'm thinking of?
Yes. You got to do that before you can get into the big book. You didn't know that?
I don't know. I probably did know that and ignored it.
Yeah. And I think you even got to report back to your sponsor on certain parts of it. So dumb. So dumb. If you're involved in any of that stuff, get out of it. So I think on this one here, make it a triple play. Come on, Barry. I'm scrapping it.
It's out of here.
It's got to go.
Now, I would
All
like
right.
to propose that if Living Sober is being rewritten, I mean, who better than to give their input than Shank and Wayne? So
I agree.
we've heard it all.
We should start offering suggestions on revisions to it.
Why not?
Send them up. Let's send them up to the literature committee. Matter of fact, I heard one of our friends is going to be over the literature desk. Oh, no, he's
Really?
on literature desk now.
He's on literature desk?
Yeah, and he's getting ready to be on over the conference.
Okay.
But isn't he literature now?
I can't remember.
Yes, I think he is. We may need to make a few suggestions. All right. Hey, if you're out there listening, we would recommend that you try to get your delegates post-conference report and get informed on what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous and let your voice be heard to others. Next week, we're going to review some of the stuff that didn't get considered. And I think you'll find it very interesting. In the meantime, be free.
Freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, suggestion, or just need help, you can email Shank and Wayne at freedom@alcoholicsalive.com. Remember, we're recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do we get paid. Join us next week for another great episode.